Hey nerds, so last week Wizards announced a whole bunch of Marvel Secret Lairs, and one commander sparked my interest. Storm, Force of Nature. This 5-mana Teamer commander gives your instants and sorcery Storm when she deals combat damage. And while you could build a generic Storm deck, I think the more fun option is building something I like to call a modular deck. The idea of this is pretty simple. You have a core deck, and then you can swap out some number of cards, in this case it's 20, to adjust the theme, the power level, or if you're like me and you're just undecided on what you want to play. I did a similar thing with the Ninth Doctor and Clara Oswald, which you can check in the video description below, but do it after watching this one. So let's jump in and see what Modular Storm can do. Oh, also, I have a Discord server now. You can find a link to that in the video description below. It's a great place to hang out with community members, get deck help, and we're going to try to get some webcam games going soon. Alright, let's get into it. Let's kick things off with the core of the deck. So the idea behind this is we have a set of 80 cards we're not going to be changing in between games. We want cheap spells to increase our Storm count, and provide value if we have to cast them with Storm. So we have cantrips such as Gitaxian Probe, Ponder, and Opt. These are easy to up the Storm count and keep our hand pretty full of cards. We also want to run some cheap ramp, so you might want to play Farseek, Rampant Growth, and Nature's Lore. Now the other thing I wanted to accomplish with this core package was giving her Double Strike and Protection. Because Storm's ability says when you deal combat damage, if you have Double Strike, you get 2 instances of Storm. So Teamer Battle Rage and Psychotic Fury felt like no-brainers here. Unlike a lot of other recent commanders, she doesn't have any built-in protection, so I wanted to make sure when she hit the board, she stayed there and was able to attack really quick. Swiftfoot Boots and Lava Spur Boots felt like no-brainers here. Both give haste and some form of protection. I could have added Lightning Greaves and Whisper Silk Cloak, but I didn't want to do that. They're kind of non-bows with Teamer Battle Rage and Expedite, which also gives her haste, which I think is too much of a downside even if it doesn't come up too often. The final so-called Voltron piece is Bear Umbra. This is great as it gives her protection, and it untaps all your lands when she attacks for a massive Storm turn. It can be a little slow, so maybe you'll cut it from your list, but I love playing this card whenever I get the chance. Now there's one last card I want to discuss before we move on to the modules, and that card is Prologue to Pheresis. I got the idea to add this from playing Poison Storm and Pauper. It's a powerful instant that gives each opponent a poison counter and draws you a card. Now the reason why I wanted to include this, even though there's no other proliferation in the deck, is there will be situations where you can just win with this on the spot, and I think it's important to have a backup win condition that you'll always have access to in the core of the deck. Of course, if you find yourself winning with this too much or trying to combo off with it a lot, you may want to cut it or just lean more into a poison theme. I didn't do that here, but it's definitely something you could do. Alright, let's do the burn module first. You're going to notice some crowd favorites in here like Grape Shot, Lightning Bolt, and Gut Shot. There are some other really cool options I wanted to include. Playful Shove, Atarka's Command, and Prismari Command. These are great if you don't have quite enough Storm to close out the game, or just want to generate some value. Now, notably, Prismari Command can act as a ritual, thanks to the treasure token generation. This is especially powerful if you can give Storm Double Strike, because each instance of damage triggers her ability. After first strike damage, you could cast Prismari Command with Storm, drawing cards and generating treasures or pinging somebody. Then she'll deal her normal damage, at which point the next thing you'll cast will have Storm. Then hopefully you'll have a bunch of treasures, which you can use to cast more spells or just bigger ones. To round out the burn package, I also added 6 creatures and an enchantment to this pile. They still keep the curve of the deck really low, and they provide additional chip damage throughout the game. I didn't want to add Thermo Alchemist or Unruly Catapult here. They always feel way too slow for me, so I've been cutting them from a lot of decks. Maybe this is wrong, and if you disagree with me, definitely let me know in the comment section down below. Next up is the Mill module. This one was actually pretty easy to put together. I threw in 19 instants and sorceries that can mill either target or each opponent, and 1 Rune Crab. Now, Crab might seem odd here, but hear me out. And it also turns all of our ramp spells into mill spells essentially, right? If we storm off with like a Crop Rotation, a Harrow, or a Growth Spiral, we can still sometimes mill a ton of cards from our opponents. It might not win us the game, but I love this Crab, so I'm keeping it in the list. I also added Brain Freeze, which is an OG Storm payoff, the new-ish Sorcerous Squall, which is absolutely a powerhouse in this deck, because not only do we get to mill everyone, we also get to keep adding to our Storm count. I also wanted to add Underworld Breach to this package, but it's a little too expensive to add right now. But it's only $11 at the time of recording, and I do think it is worth picking up. And if you want to spend even more money, maybe a Brewvac would be worth adding, but again, it's a little too expensive, so I didn't add it here. Now the final module I wanted to build was tokens. I've always loved the idea of playing a creature-based Spellslinger deck that uses tokens to win the game. So some of the token generation already has Storm, Elemental Eruption, Shatterstorm, and Empty the Warrens, giving us potentially triple Storm in a single turn. Elemental Eruption, along with Goblin Wizardry, is great because these tokens also have prowess, allowing us to grow our army before attacking and then storming off. Unsurprisingly, giving Storm to spells that weren't designed with Storm in mind can be really powerful, especially with extra turn spells. And while I didn't make a dedicated extra turn module, which would have been cool, I do have a Salt one coming up after this. Alrund's Epiphany makes tokens and gives us at least 2 extra turns if we hit with Storm, maybe even 3 if we have Double Strike. We could also add a little infect to get around infinite life with Carrion Call. And then of course, Impact Tremors and Molten Gatekeeper will help close out the game with a giant Storm turn by pinging opponents when our tokens enter. Now I just jokingly mentioned a Salt module, and this is kind of true. There were some other ideas I really wanted to build, but I didn't think there'd be enough support, or they would be way too salt-inducing. Those being extra turns, extra combats, and land destruction. Imagine casting Relentless Assault, Great Train Heist, or Seize the Day with Storm. You could get so many extra combats, it seems insane. The same is true for Walk the Eons, Time Stretch, and Expropriate if you want a ton of extra turns. Expropriate's extra mean here because you also get to steal a whole bunch of permanents. Finally, if you wanted to do land destruction, cards like Stone Rain and Ice Storm are really powerful. You could also run Cleansing Wildfire and an indestructible land, then target your indestructible land. It doesn't get destroyed, but you still get a ramp and then also draw a card. It basically turns Cleansing Wildfire into a rampant growth that also cantrips in red. If you're looking for a less salt-inducing option, Plot and Foretell cards could also be really solid here. I had Jace Reawakened in my original list to give any cheap spells Plot, but I ended up cutting it. I do want to try the card at some point though, it does seem really fun. And then Lock and Load seems great also, you can plot it and then cast it whenever you're going to draw a lot of cards, or you just want to continue a big Storm turn. For Foretell, we just got a reprinting of Delayed Blast Fireball from a Secret Lair, which if you didn't get, hopefully it's still in stock, so maybe you'll want to pick a copy of it up. It would be really fun to burn out the table with it. Before we get into upgrades, I want to showcase some cards my community suggested. While none of these made my final list, I do think they are probably worth considering, so here they are. Chandra's Fury, Arc Bond, Cerebral Vortex, Doppelgang, Make Your Own Luck, World Soul's Rage, Molten Psyche, Storm King's Thunder, Guided Passage, and Hugh the Entwood. Now for the upgrades, there are definitely some cards I really wanted to add, but they were just too expensive unfortunately. Bria Riptide Rogue would be great to add to the token module, but it's over $20 at the time of recording. It's great though, because it gives all of our creatures prowess. Exalted Flamer of, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, TZEENTCH, is great to add to the burn module, and could be worth including in the main deck. Now we also have Roaming Throne, which would potentially let us get Quadruple Storm with Double Strike, which seems absolutely bonkers with any spell. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this Marvel Secret Lair. Are you looking forward to building any of them? Do you think Universes Beyond is a mistake? I would love to hear your feedback. Also, you can find this deck and all the modules in the video description below. Alrighty nerds, I'll see you in the next one.